Also, we say hello and welcome back, Bill Bubba Bussey.
Well, glad to be here, Rick, and thank all of you for being part of the Rick and Bubba family. And, Rick, I'm excited to have Governor Mike Huckabee in studio with us.
Well, hello. Welcome back, Huckabee.
Hey, good to be here in studio. I've talked to you guys so many times
I know.
on the radio, but never have been to this amazing facility. This is just awesome. Underground bunker. I know you got it from Dick Cheney, and it's really working out well for you.
Well, when you look at it, and this is the sad truth. We've been doing radio together, us doing a show together for 24 years. We've both been in radio about 30 years or so.
Give or take.
And we have never, ever received an award of any kind, but the studio has. So it's like the studio has been awarded, but the host of the show in the studio have never.
We got to work on that.
Yeah, I know.
We've got to fix that.
Right.
10 years ago, we kind of dropped a hint with our best of CD that year called 14 Years, Still No Awards.
Yeah, well,
Nobody really picked up on that.
But I think this is where we have a kinship. Inside the world of politics, you're not really welcome.
That's right.
With politicians because they don't really like the way you do it because you're kind of outside of the way it's always been done. We do radio in a way that the people who hear the show like it, but the people who are in radio don't. So, but we almost look at that as a badge of encouragement.
Well, the fact that you have this facility, you're on all the stations all over the country that you're on, is an indication that it doesn't matter what the critics think. What matters is that the people love you guys, and it's just a delight to be with you in studio. What a fun place to be.
Well, we had
we're not even throwing food yet.
No, well, we're not.
Yeah.
And,
I was wondering, when does that start?
Well, let me tell you what we started to do.
Okay.
Behind me, you may notice this prize wheel right here in the drum set.
Yeah.
I see you're really drawn to the drum set.
Totally, yeah.
Because you're a musician.
That's
and
right.
And you love it. And last night you did a phenomenal job on the bass. I want to tell you that.
Thank you.
To watch a guy from Arkansas play the bass on Sweet Home Alabama felt good.
I love the song. Hey, look, I'm a Skynyrd fan. I mean, how can you grow up in the South and not love Skynyrd?
Oh, yeah.
Right, it's something wrong with it. But over here, right over here from the drum set is a wheel.
Yeah.
And that's called the Wheel of Meat.
The giant wheel of meat.
The giant wheel of meat, and we normally spend it on Wheel of Meat Wednesday,
Yeah.
which makes sense. And people can actually win delicious cuts of meat, and then we ship them to them.
We think we're the only broadcast outlet giving away meat off of a giant wheel.
Yeah, so
I'm pretty sure that's right.
yeah, and we're fighting everything in our inner being to not just.
So that's not a vegetarian wheel.
No, it's declaring that we're just going to do Wheel of Meat on Tuesday and let you spin it today. But it's but that'll
Some celebrities get that privilege.
Yeah, some do get that privilege. But what a blast we had last night. But there's a lot going on with you that we want to talk about ahead of time. There's certain we play this little thing right here sometimes. These are the days of America. And usually that means that there's a report coming of how bad America has become.
Yeah, I don't like when Rick plays
Bubba
that.
hates when I play that, and we'll have some outlandish story. Well, one day I hit this right here. These are the days of and this is what I said. Bubba, it has gotten so bad in our country, the CMAs have kicked Mike Huckabee out. I mean, when I heard that the country had gotten so bad that country music doesn't want you, I thought to myself, all right, we're done. I mean, this country.
Somebody cut the lights
We got to do
off.
something drastic. Now, did you ever think you'd be too controversial for country music?
No, I didn't. It was quite an experience, and I lasted less time on the CMA Foundation board than Anthony Scaramucci lasted at the White House. It was, in fact, I was on a flight from Taiwan when I got the word. There was Wi-Fi on board, and I got this email saying, there's some people who are upset that you're on the foundation board, and they're threatening to boycott their artist if you stay on there. And it was bizarre. And so, by the time I landed, I realized that I was done, and it was frustrating to me because it had nothing to do with politics and nothing to do with my faith, but those were the two reasons that these guys gave as to why they thought I was inappropriate to be on the board. Well, the whole point of being on the board was to push music education for students, which is something I've been involved in for decades, and had not anything to do with a political issue. But it was their politics, and we're living in a time where when people say they want diversity, what they want is uniformity. When they say they want tolerance, what they mean is intolerance. And when they say they are all about love, they're about hate. And that's the kind of world we're living in. I do think that the blowback to the CMA was stronger than the criticism they got for me being on, and I think they regret it. I told one of the friends of mine who works at WTN in Nashville. I said, if these artists really think that most of the people who come to their concerts are driving up a pickup truck with a rainbow flag, they ought to go out in the parking lot and look and see how many NRA stickers are on the pickup trucks out there. Right. They might really get an awakening. But this is not the industry, and it's not the artist. It's just a handful of people in management who have come in from places, and I think it's unfortunate. And music ought to be the one place that people come together and can set aside whatever hardcore political views they have and celebrate the music and the arts. And that, to me, was the frustration, was it for those folks. It wasn't about students. It wasn't about music. It was about their personal political agenda, and that overrode everything.
I think they would be lucky to have you on as an advocate and a lover of music that you are, and you show it everywhere you go and in everything you do.
Well, and as a governor, one of the things that I pushed for and got done, one of the few states in the country that has mandated music and art education for every student K through 12 with certified teachers, and that's why the board asked me to be on, because they knew that in terms of experience of how do you get this legislatively accomplished where students have access to the arts. That was the whole point. Had nothing to do with whether I was a Republican or Democrat or a Christian or a Muslim. And my frustration was that now we're not focusing on music and kids, we're focusing on the fact that I have a different point of view. But I thought this was America. Last time I checked, that was okay.
Well, you make the bigger point. They claim to be the bastion of the arena of ideas, and everyone ought to be able to express who they are. And I've had to say this before. I said, I've noticed that y'all want everybody to be able to be who they are, except for me.
Yeah.
I mean, when do I get to be who I am? And that's the point. And especially since
you're in the penalty box.
Yeah. But when they think about, like to Bubba's point, to have you in the platform that God's afforded you to be an advocate for music education. But then there's a second point. This was country music.
Yeah.
I mean, if I could understand somebody saying, Huck's never going to get into the Grammys board, or he's not, the Academy is not going to bring him in to decide what movies get awards and all.
They're
this.
not?
I don't think so, buddy. I hate to be that way.
That hurts.
But you would think if there was one place that you would not be controversial, is the Country Music Association.
Yeah.
I mean, have they heard the songs? I mean, that was just. But to your point, it wasn't the artist. It's not the fans.
Overwhelmingly, the reaction was very positive toward me.
There might be some of the artists, but not a lot of them.
Well, that's true. I mean, there's some people certainly in the country music world that are left of center, and that's fine. I can accept them for their art and for their music and for what they are able to perform. My goodness, I can watch a movie that has an actor in it that I can't stand their politics, but I admire their artistic ability. I just think that we're getting to a place in America where we're polarizing things that shouldn't be polarized. I get it that politics is a rough and tumble sport. I tell people, if you can't stand the sight of your own blood, don't participate. Right. It's a tough business.
Right.
But there ought to be a few places of respite that we can come away from, and the arts should be one of those places.
And music. Sports.
Well, and sports, yeah. I don't watch a football game to have somebody preach to me about left-wing politics, and ESPN is killing their audiences and destroying their network by that kind of stuff.
Well, I would say that those are probably two people right now that don't seem to know their audience.
Yeah.
ESPN and the Country Music Association.
Yeah.
They don't know their audience.
Absolutely.
We'll come back. Mike Huckabee's with us. We have more to talk about. We'll also talk about Bubba and I mentioned a little bit about last night. There was one thing we didn't know if we could talk about or not, and
we want to talk about the job your daughter's doing.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. Man, she's doing a great job.
Thank you.
We are fans.
I meant to introduce you, as everyone is now, as her dad. That's your new title.
Okay.
That's your new title.
I got a T-shirt, Sarah's dad. That's what it says.
We'll be right back. More Rick and Bubba next.
Rick and Bubba. This is R. Lee Ermey, better known as Gunnery Sergeant Hartman. I am listening to the Rick and Bubba Show. Two fine, outstanding young American hard chargers.
21 minutes now. 21 minutes past the hour. Rick and Bubba, we got Mike Huckabee here with us today, and we've been chatting a little bit about some of the stories he's been tied to. We finished talking about the CMA. Got that done. Next, and I'm looking at your response. Yesterday we did the really tragic story, in my opinion, of Jim Carrey's attack on your daughter. And I've read your response, and I think you're not just saying, hey, this is my daughter. You're actually trying which is difficult with the far left. Remember, when a worldview is based on emotion, we shouldn't expect it to be consistent. And his attack on your daughter, it didn't seem to jive with what we just talked about a minute ago. What would have happened if it had been another way? If he'd attacked someone who was Muslim for their faith, or attacked someone who was, maybe a Orthodox Jewish person for their faith, and the list goes on. And what would it look like if he attacked somebody for maybe their sexuality or even their gender? In the time we're living in now, they keep saying that we shouldn't have anything to say about any of that, but when it comes to your daughter, she's free game.
Look, she is free game because of the position she holds. For what she says, the person she works for, I get all of that. But when they attack her because of her faith, and my daughter is a very, very devoted, devout evangelical believer. She loves the Lord. She raises her kids that way. She's married to a delightful Christian husband. They live a normal life outside of her crazy world at the White House. And to call her a so-called Christian and to call her monstrous without knowing her is just incredibly wrong. And I'm just tired of being okay to attack Christians but nobody else.
You develop a great term here that this may catch on. You call Jim Carrey a Christophobe.
Well, because,
absolutely.
If you say anything about a Muslim, you're an Islamophobe. If you say anything about same-sex marriage, then you are, a homophobe.
Right.
So what about people who say just vicious things about Christians? Aren't they Christophobes? Isn't that what they really are? So that's the term I call Jim Carrey.
Yeah, and you referred to him as a pathetic bully, sexist, hater, bigot, Christophobe, attacking her for her faith. And you were going to say that would be hypocritical Hollywood reaction if he had called someone a so-called Muslim or a so-called Jew. What would we be hearing today? And you'd be right.
Well, other than that, though, he's a great guy.
Yeah, other than
I love him to death, and I'm going to have him over for Thanksgiving.
Well, the point you're making is you're using the phrases they use on everybody else, but they don't
Exactly.
apply.
That's the point.
They don't apply it to themselves.
Right. And look, we're living in a very rough and tumble world. I'm totally cool with that. But we ought to have some modicum of decency. There ought to be some lines, and one of those lines is you don't attack somebody for their faith, their looks. There's just some things that kind of ought to be off the table. If you want to go after me or anyone I know because of their views, their politics, or the application of things, that's fine. But to attack people without knowing them and attack them on a personal level rather than on a viewpoint level, I just find that bizarre.
And Governor, I know you mentioned it last night. I thought it was interesting. You ran for the White House.
Thanks for reminding me how well that turned out.
Well, we did all we could do for you here at least one cycle ago.
Yeah, that's right.
And when you didn't win, you endorsed Trump or got supportive with him, and that surprised a lot of people. And I thought you might want to comment on that.
Well, I saw Donald Trump as a disruptive candidate, and I'm convinced we needed disruption in the political world. Democrats and Republicans had become so stale that you couldn't tell the difference as to who was in power because nothing changed. Right. They didn't change their policies. They're still funding Planned Parenthood. They're still raising taxes. They're still spending more money than they've got. They're still underfunding the military, and they're still not doing anything about requiring people to work for the government benefits they get. There's a whole host of things that have happened, and Republicans had done no better than Democrats when it really got down to it, and they were all playing their little inside game. Donald Trump went to the White House without having hooks all in him from special interest groups. He didn't have a bunch of obligations out there. And that, to me, was very important. I'm here in Alabama this week to help a guy run for governor that I think in many ways is like that, in that he doesn't have so many obligations. He's not a politician, hasn't been elected to things before. And I believe we're at a place in our country where we need people who come totally from the outside, who do not walk into the door and get sworn in with about 200 people who have pretty much ownership. And it's like they've bought stock in him, and now they own him to the point where the people will never get the full benefit of public service out of him. And that's why I was at the rally last night for Scott Dawson.
Speaking of your daughter, too, we were talking about what a tough job she has. And what a great – I remember the first day she stepped up to the microphone. I think it was a fill-in day, and I thought, hey, she's got what it takes. And my favorite day was had to be Thanksgiving or the day before, where she made all the reporters tell something they were thankful for before they got to ask a question. And I was dying laughing, going, that is such a good.
It reminded me, and she reminds me a lot of this type of one. My grandmother, my grandmother, that on Thanksgiving, it wasn't whether you wanted to say what you were thankful for. You better be ready to.
Yeah, you
Be
better.
prepared.
Yeah, but before we go any further with our dinner today, I want everybody to tell me something they're thankful for.
Or no turkey for you.
That's right.
But you said she's been prepared her whole life for this job.
Well, she has. She had 2 older brothers. They were mean to her. They used to feed her, they give her a glass of mud and tell her it was a milkshake. And they super glued her fingers together one time when she was little. And they talked her into riding her bicycle on the roof of the house. I mean, it's just some crazy stuff they did. But this kid grew up tough because to survive, she had to. And she's also got a lot of her mother in her. And that means she's one tough, sassy Southern lady. And, don't mess with her.
That's
Or
right.
you're going to find yourself, looking around seeing where the rest of your body parts are, 'cause they're somewhere on the floor. But I've always said, and this is be very true of my daughter, that when a Southern woman starts or ends a sentence, figuratively or literally, with bless your heart, you are about to be gutted like a deer.
Oh yeah, there's nothing worse than that.
Man, everybody, somebody from up north, they hear, oh, bless your heart.
Right.
They think, well, that's so sweet. Pal, you better step back and look what's on the floor because it's your inside.
Right. Yeah. A Southern woman, she'll bless your heart.
Yeah,
right
she'll
out
bless
of there.
your heart.
Right out of there.
Woo, that
Yeah.
means something.
When you said that about her having the 2 brothers, my brother and I have a sister, and I thought, doggone it, our sister could have been White
Press
House
secretary.
Yeah, I never knew. She went through the same tortures. You were basically describing my sister's life.
Well, my daughter is a person who's confident and comfortable in her own skin. She knows who she is. She's not a person who goes into that room and escalates the tension, but she knows that it's not her job to make pals of the press, and she respects them. She knows they've got a job. Their job is to try to get her to say something that would embarrass the president. But I'll say this, when she walks in there, she understands that podium belongs to her, and they're not going to take it away from her.
No doubt about that. We'll come back. Do we have one more? Okay, we got more with Mike Huckabee when we come back. Bottom of the hour. Our number is 866-WE-BE-BIG. We'll talk more with Huckabee. Also, don't forget, rickandbubba.com has all the information you need about the program. Catch those show notes for stories we may have already covered that when you joined us you might have missed. We'll be right back.
Rick and Bubba, Rick and Bubba.
The Rick and Bubba Show, we're back. Mike Huckabee is with us. I do want to remind you, look, we all love the technology that's out there, and certainly it's wonderful, but anytime we have something that is relatively new, there's good with it, and then there's bad with it. With all the technology we have, we are susceptible to identity theft. Another dirty twist on identity theft fraud. Thieves are hacking online accounts at tax preparation firms and using them. This is their time of year when they do those phony refunds. Once the IRS deposits the money in the hacked client's bank accounts, now the crooks contact them posing as collection agencies claiming the refund was an error and then demanding payment again.
Oh, that's nice, isn't it?
These are wonderful people, aren't they?
Yep.
Well, unfortunately, people are falling for this. There's so many threats in today's connected world, and it just takes one weak link for the criminals to get in. Now, the good news is the new LifeLock identity theft protection now adds the power of Norton Security to help protect you against threats to your identity and your devices that you can't easily see or fix on your own. And even if you do have a problem, the LifeLock agents will work to fix it, providing you with the peace of mind. No one can stop every cyber threat and prevent all identity theft or monitor transactions at all businesses, but I'm going to tell you this. We're telling you the new LifeLock with Norton Security is able to uncover threats you might otherwise miss, and it's the best protection available today. And that's who we have, and that's who you need. Do what we do. Go to LifeLock.com or call 1-800-LifeLock. There's a promo code you can use, BUBBA. Saves 10%. Or you can go to rickandbubba.com, look at the sponsors button. Information is there, too. So we've talked with Mike Huckabee about the CMAs. We've talked about his daughter as White House press secretary. We talked a little Trump. Last night, we were all part of a rally for our friend Scott Dawson. I didn't know, and we love Scott, and we've talked about this. Scott is a man of integrity. He's a man of character, and we certainly, as we said, can vouch for him. And you talked about that. That's different than an endorsement.
Yeah,
it's a much different thing.
I think I talked about that, Rick.
Yeah. Bub,
he got credit for that
that's
because
fine.
of me.
That's fine. But let me say this. we've been together so long.
Yeah,
To
we're
say Bubba or
interchangeable.
to say Rick is to say the same thing.
Okay.
It truly is.
You finish each other's sentences.
No question. Yeah, yeah.
Well,
People ask me about tennis, and I just pretend that I know what they're talking about. That's actually, but go ahead.
Well, I really was taken by what you said because, Rick, when you said it's one thing to endorse somebody, it's another to vouch for them. And I thought, I've never heard that said about a political endorsement, but it makes so much sense and it's so powerful because to endorse somebody basically says, yeah, there's a political obligation here, and I'm going to do it. Vouch for someone says, I stand with them. I don't just, throw my name on them. I stand with them. And I said it's the equivalent of the difference between saying to a banker, yeah, I think that guy's good for a loan, and saying, I'll co-sign.
Yeah.
That's what it comes down to. And I thought that was a very powerful kind of affirmation of Scott Dawson and his character, his potential as a governor, and that was a strong moment for me.
Well, it's the reason why, as you said, and you're all of us in the same boat. When God affords you a platform, there's an incredible responsibility that comes with it. Because people, whether they should or they shouldn't, they get to the point, because we're all flawed, they get to a point where they say, well, you know what, I've been around you for a while. I feel like that we, especially in radio, because it's such an intimate platform, a media, and so you start feeling like that these are your friends, and I love that about radio. That's why I love this platform and this media. But he said, but then people want to say, well, I don't know if I told you, but I told one of the people that asked me about it afterwards. I was at, Bubba, and you'd be proud of this, at a frozen yogurt place. And when it was
Well,
time,
you were hanging out to the middle of the night.
well, that's why they thought that I was you. But
Right.
but anyway, so we had this wasn't last night. This was months and months ago.
Okay.
So this is before. This is when Scott was thinking about running, and we were all still trying to figure out who was going to do what. Well, a guy walks up to me that's a fan of the show, and he says, "What are we going to do about governor?" And I said, "I don't know." And he said, "Well, I heard that you or Bubba may run." And I said, "Let me just tell you that isn't true." I said, it's kind of you to say that, but that isn't true. Because I never think that God calls you to sin in order to be in his will. Bubba and I have contracts that people are depending on us for a period of time, and God would never call us to not under a contract to go do something else. That's not how God works.
Yeah.
And so I knew that wasn't in the cards for either one of us. And so he said, well, I need to know who we're going to vote for. And I said, I'm sorry. And he says, well, who are we going to vote for? And I said, what do you mean? He said, I've got $5,000, and I want you to tell me who I need to give it to.
Wow.
And I was like, what? And at that point, I thought, okay, this we can't take this and piddle around with this.
Yeah.
This is extremely serious. And that's the reason why you haven't heard very much over the years, nor will you hear it going forward, that either one of us vouches for any politician. Because if Billy Graham got burned on that a few times, then we can all get burned on
You
it.
bet. You bet.
And so you have to really, and you've been in politics, so you know what I'm saying in a huge way. You just can't trust many of them. And the platform we have for the kingdom of God, frankly, is more important to me than any politician. And I certainly don't want to compromise it for some politician, because at the end of the day, I've got to answer to the person we're all going to answer to. And so that's the reason why Scott's easy, because this is somebody we've known all of our lives. And I'm not saying that everything he'll ever do politically, people will say, well, I agree with that wholeheartedly. But as far as his character and his integrity and some of the moral failures we've seen of politicians, I can tell you that's not going to happen with Scott.
And I think that's why people are disenchanted with politics and politicians, because they think they're electing a particular individual. The person gets there, they find out that is not who that person is. I mean, you can make almost anybody look terrific in a political ad.
Yeah.
But the question is, when all the lights are turned off and everybody's gone and the cameras aren't there, the old saying is that character is who you are when nobody's looking.
No question.
And that's really what it comes down to. You want to elect someone who puts his head on the pillow at night and says, Lord, I did everything I know to do the right thing today. I go to sleep. I wake up tomorrow. I'll do the right thing tomorrow as best I understand it. That's what you hope for. It is not somebody who has all the answers, because no one does. And I'll tell you, the most important person that you get elected to an office like governor. This is why it's easy for me to support Scott Dawson. People say, but he's not been in politics. The smartest man in the room is the guy who knows what he doesn't know.
Right.
And the most dangerous person in the room is the guy who doesn't know what he doesn't know. And a lot of people in politics, they don't know what they don't know. And they're scary.
Yeah, they are.
They're scary because they think they know everything.
Well, another thing that I've seen, and this is Adrian Rogers who said this one. You talked about, and it's true that integrity is who you are when nobody's watching you. He said something, too, that I've never forgotten, and I don't know if it was even original from him, but he's the one I heard say this. if you want to know who a man really is, watch how he treats people that can't do anything for him.
Yeah.
And I thought, wow, that is, and I know for the fact that, there's a lot of people, even in ministry, that aspire to be a big deal.
Yeah.
And that's usually when we see them fall.
Yes.
But sadly. But I know that all the years we've spent working with Scott's ministry, he's the guy that is going to do, speak somewhere in the middle of nowhere to people who can't do anything for him, that probably can't muster anything for the ministry. He's there because that's where he's called to be. And he never, decides, we're going to do this because we'll be a big deal if we do this, and let's don't go do that because that's not going to do anything for us. And I've seen that in his character as well. And there's a lot of people that, when somebody walks in the room that's a big deal, they act one way, and then when they walk past somebody that can't do anything for them, they act differently. And always watch for that. It'll tell you a lot about the person.
Yes, it really will.
Yeah.
Well, got a guy like Scott who has been in hundreds and hundreds of schools speaking to junior high students to help them steer away from a life of drugs and irresponsible behavior. What are those kids going to do for him? I mean, what can they do for him? Can they write him a big check? No, they can't. Can they put some influence? No. These are junior high kids. Why was he there? Because he knows that if the future of this country has any hope, it's going to be because some of them get their lives turned around, understand what real leadership looks like and how it acts, and he's there to plant those seeds. That's power.
Well, I also laughed. I love the line that Scott said, too, when people say he doesn't have any experience in politics. Yes, he does, because he's been dealing with churches for how many years? 30 years? You know quite a bit about politics.
Yeah.
Absolutely. I remember, and Scott's here, too, when we did, and I don't know if you knew this or not, but we did 3 times something called Stadium Fest. And we felt like in this particular event where we brought in these praise and worship artists, and we also had multiple messages from children all the way through different times of the day of presenting the gospel. And we just felt laid on our heart that this should, and there's nothing wrong when people do ticketed events. I do ticketed events. I'm not saying that's wrong. Just as Paul says, look, some of them, y'all are providing the money for them, and they're not wrong.
Uh-huh.
I'm gonna make tents, and my guys are gonna provide our way because I don't want to hear you whine about it. Is what he's really saying. Yeah. I don't want to hear you hold that over my head. But the ones who are not doing it my way are not doing it wrong. So don't hear that. But in this particular case, we thought we could maximize the number of people that would come by what? It's free. We'll go raise the money and pay the artists and pay for the staging, pay for the sound, and then you just come. Well, that required the effort of a lot of churches. And people have asked about the miracles of those events. And I said the number one miracle is that we had over 100 churches put together these events 3 times, and nobody got credit for it.
Wow.
And they still did it. And I said, if you want to see something, a miracle, is churches working together and nobody got the credit. So if you want to say Scott doesn't know about politics, I would say all his years in ministry, he knows a lot about politics. So I agree with that completely. Well, Huckabee, I know you've never checked this off your list of accomplishments, but when we come back,
we call it GWOM, the giant wheel of meat.
I can't wait. This is what I live for, is to spin a wheel and make it possible for someone to get some meat.
Yep.
Absolutely.
So Mike Huckabee will spin the wheel of meat. We're moving it off Wednesday to Tuesday because we only have him here on Tuesday. And we can do that.
We can do that.
Rick and Bubba, Rick and Bubba.
The wheel of meat keeps on turning.
Wheel of meat.
Ooh, if I don't win today, then tomorrow. Wheel of meat's got me yearning.
Come on, wheel of meat.
Whoa, come on, give it a try.
The wonderful Wheel of Meat, an executive decision made by the Rick and Bubba Show to move the Wheel of Meat off of Wednesday to today, which is Tuesday, if you're listening live, because we have Mike Huckabee here. And when I saw his eyes light up like a little light when he saw that Wheel of Meat, no way could I let him leave this studio without spinning that wheel.
He's done some great things, Rick. We may be at a pinnacle right here.
All right, now, Governor Huckabee, here's what's going to happen. When I answer the phone, people will say to you, wow, what a wheel.
Okay.
And when they say, wow, what a wheel, then you spin it.
That's the spinning moment.
Yeah,
yes.
You do not spin it unless they say, wow, what a wheel.
Speedy will help cue you.
Yeah. How about
follow
that?
instructions.
You thought the wheel
I've
was
been married
something.
44 years.
I know
I
you.
follow.
Yeah, look at those lights.
I know.
Isn't that something?
That's awesome, man.
Today, Bubba, if it lands on Stay In It, we will add, because Stay In It's special.
Right.
We will add today free tickets to the Drop the Mic tour coming to Montgomery, Meridian, Mississippi.
What state is that?
Mississippi. Or Daphne, Mobile, Alabama. You pick either one of those markets. You'll get 2 pair of tickets if the governor spins stay in it for you, and then you get a free spin. All right, so let's start with Taylor. Taylor, welcome to the Rick and Bubba Show. Calling out of Mississippi. What do you say to Mike Huckabee?
Wow, what a wheel.
Go ahead, yeah!
What a good spin.
That's a fine spin.
Put his back into it like he meant it, Rick.
You can tell that guy's.
Look at her spin.
There he goes. All right, look at that. Look at the hand of truth up there.
That
Thumbs
thing
up.
may not stop till the breakfast begins.
All right, let's see, Taylor, where it lands for you. Oh, yeah! Moultrie, 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 view it! Oh, you got a Moultrie package, Taylor. How about Huckabee didn't waste any time, and you can get the Moultrie camera package, which is the Moultrie Mobile, which means I look at those every day. It comes right to your phone.
Love it.
It'll be connected to the M40i, or you can get a Moultrie feeder package, which is about a $350 value in and of itself. Which one you want?
The camera.
The camera. I figured that. We'll put you on
Camera
hold,
it is.
and Moultrie will send that directly to you. All right? Thanks.
Thank you, Governor.
Yeah, thank you very much. Hey, thank you, Governor. He spun a winner right out of the gate. He's a new friend. Yeah. Cody, what do you say to Mike Huckabee?
Wow, what a wheel.
Come on, Huck! And there he goes.
Throws a change up in there.
Cody calling us out. It looks like out of South Alabama there. Let's see where this lands. All right, come on.
Oh, look at the lights showing off, Rick.
Oh, my gosh. You can tell they like the Huckabee spin.
One more.
Yes. Flowers, flowers, flowers. Smell it. Well, Cody, congratulations from 1-800-Flowers.com. You have a choice to have 24 multicolored roses, 24 red roses, or 30 assorted tulips, and they'll send them wherever you want them to be sent.
We'll go with the tulips.
Tulips it is. 30 assorted tulips for you. When you go to 1-800-Flowers.com, always enter the code BUBBA to see specials available to Rick and Bubba listeners. Let's go to David, back to the state of Mississippi. David, welcome to the program, buddy.
Wow, what a wheel.
Come on, Huckabee. It's 2 winners in a row.
I know it. He's on a roll.
He's spun nothing but winners so far.
I know his daughter would be proud.
Not everybody wins, Governor, just so you know. All right, here. Oh, look at now we got it. Look at here. Yeah! Meat! Oh, meat has been spun, David. It's landed on meat, a $50 gift card to stockyards.com. The world's finest steak and chop since 1893. And you take that $50 gift card, pick out what you want, and they'll ship it right to you, okay?
Good deal. Thanks, guys.
Thank you, David. We need to get some info from you, so I'm putting you on hold, okay?
How about when you're eating a steak that you won from Mike Huckabee? Is that not funny?
Oh, when you cut that thing and it's so juicy and tender.
Oh, man.
And you think, I'll tell you one thing, this, you know, because what you don't want is for your meat to be like his daughter, because then it'll be tough. All right, so let's go now to our first lady who's going to get a spin today. Daphne is calling in. Daphne also looks like out of the southern part of Alabama down toward Montgomery way. Daphne, how you doing?
I'm doing great. Wow, what a wheel.
Come on, Huckabee. Let's see if we can keep the streak going.
He's on a roll.
He is. All right, Daphne, let's see what we got here.
Like a wheel rolling downhill.
Let's see here.
Yes,
Boy,
sir.
Yeah! Meat! Oh, Daphne. I'm going to tell you what, I don't know what you're going to go with, but whatever meat you choose, from stockyards.com, I want you to thank Governor Huckabee and say, you know what? When I needed Huckabee to put food on the table,
yep,
he delivered. So let's get some information from you, and you got a $50 gift card to go to stockyards.com, the world's finest steaks and chops, and they'll send it right to your door. Thank you for playing,
Thanks,
Daphne.
guys.
Oh, thank you. Thanks for listening to the show. All right, let's continue. Let's go to Ryan. Ryan, you all right over at Dawson? Let's go to Ryan. Ryan, how you doing, buddy?
Wow, what a wheel.
Oh, yeah, Ryan knew what to do. That's a veteran right there. All right.
Round and round she goes.
On the phone, brother.
Henry the horse! It's Henry the horse!
Oh, Governor. I don't know how to explain
Here
this.
he comes! Yeah! Henry the horse!
There he is. There he is. He's doing some kind of judo move today.
All right,
All
Henry.
right, guys, we got to get to the polls. Saddle up, partner. Saddle up. Let's go. Oh, wait a second. That did not work out too well last time. Wrong candidate. My bad.
Oh, you're a bad horse. Bad horse.
Bad horse. Got everybody. The China shop is open.
Get the broom out.
There it is. We can do one more.
One more.
One
One
more.
more for the road.
JT, you're on with Huckabee. What do you say?
Wow, what a wheel.
One more spin, Huck. Somewhere Tom Bradford is losing it. All right, here we go. All right, let's see. Here we go.
Blame it on Speedy.
Look at Huckabee. I mean, he's flowers, flowers, flowers. Smell it. All right, JT from 1-800-Flowers.com. 2 dozen roses, or red roses, or 2 dozen multicolored roses. Which one you want?
2 dozen multicolor roses.
Yeah, I hear you. All right, we'll put you on hold. We'll get all the information from you, and 1-800-Flowers.com will ship that to the lucky lady on your list today. And always, when you go to 1-800-Flowers.com, enter the promo code BUBBA to find the specials. Scott Dawson, Mike Huckabee, thanks for hanging out with us today. We had a great time and appreciate you very much. And thanks for spinning the wheel.
Hey, I'm just happy to make some new friends today. What are we, 5 people today?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Made winners.
All winners.
So now I'm up to 7 friends total in my life. The 2 of you and the 5 people that won.
I can't wait till he talks to his daughter, and they'll go, "What did you do today?" "Well, I did. What'd you do today?" "Well, I spun a giant wheel."
This may be the first day that his day made me more bizarre than her.
Hey, we're all spinning, bro.
Rick and Bubba.